Hello, and welcome to The Diverse Bookshelf with me, Samia Aziz. On this show, I interview incredible authors doing a deep dive into important themes and issues while talking all things books. This episode with scholar, writer, and translator Shaimaa Abulebda from within Rafah in Gaza. Shaymaa's family home in East Khan Younis brings together her 8 married siblings, and for her nieces and nephews, it's their grandparents' house. Shaymaa has lived through the second intifada and all the aggressions on Gaza since 2008 until this current ongoing genocide. With dreams of getting a PhD in literature, Shaymaa looked forward to a bright future. She was lecturing at the Islamic University of Gaza, which has now been completely destroyed. Since October 7th, Shaymaa and her parents have been displaced 3 times and are now living in an overcrowded refugee camp in Rafah, where there is no food, clean water, or electricity. Shaymaa is currently raising funds so her and her parents can leave Gaza and find safety in Egypt first before thinking about what could come next. In her own words, Shaymaa has described the extensive stress, pain, and pressure on the people of Gaza, the way everyone is losing weight and strength due to forced starvation, how nobody can clean themselves properly, and how Shaymaa's short-term memory is being impacted every single day. The mental and emotional toll is uncomparable. I invited Shaymaa onto the podcast so she can share her story and we can hear firsthand what life is like in Gaza, both today, but also in the years that Shaymaa grew up. Due to a lack of strong internet connection and a quiet space, this episode has been put together from separate recordings, and Shaymaa recorded her story during the night from a refugee camp and other people. You can only imagine how difficult it was for Shaymaa to open up about her experiences. But she speaks with an honesty, a brutal honesty, talking about her life since October 7th and everything that came before and after. I really hope that we're able to truly listen to her and to do what we can to support the people of Palestine. Shaymaa, welcome to the Diverse Bookshelf podcast. Thank you so much for making the time to speak to me today. I know that you're in Rafah, Gaza right now, having been displaced due to your home, due to the ongoing genocidal war. If this question doesn't seem utterly ridiculous, how are you and how is your family?
Thank you so much for having me. We are okay, alhamdulillah. We are bone deep exhausted. We are sad. We are grieving. We are angry too. But we keep saying, we keep reminding ourselves that there are people in Gaza who have it worse than us. So alhamdulillah for everything.
I wonder if we could start with the beginning. You were born in Gaza and have lived there almost all of your life. What was it like growing up in Gaza? How would you describe your childhood?
Yes, I was born in Gaza, in a town called Bani Suhaila, east of Khan Younis in the south. Growing up in Gaza means growing up in tight communities. We live in neighborhoods where we are surrounded by family and relatives, close and distant ones. Everyone meets everyone, everyone knows everyone goes to everyone's houses. This is the kind of community that we live in. As a child, I was a very quiet child. I used to go from home to school and school to home during the school year. During the summer holiday, I spent my holidays in summer camps and I was memorizing the Quran, and I used to go to the beach a lot with my family. This is not only my childhood, this is a childhood of every Gazan. Not only my generation, but also the new generations until this very day, or at least before the genocide. This is what a childhood in Gaza looks like. This is from my own memory and my own experience. I'm not sure about all of Gaza, but I guess all of them live the same way Khan Younis does.
Thank you for sharing that. And the beaches of Gaza sound absolutely beautiful. And I've seen pictures of Gaza before. And I really hope that one day Gaza is rebuilt and we all get to go to a free Gaza and a free Palestine. So when was the first time that you realised you were living in occupied lands? And how has that impacted the relationship you have with your Palestinian identity?
Well, there is no particular moment in my memory. I guess I've always realized that we live in occupied lands. From the year I was born until 2005, in Khan Younis, we were not allowed to go to the Khan Younis beach. We had to go to Gaza's beach, as the occupation had its settlements on the coast of Khan Younis, lands that we call al-Mawasi, where people are currently living in tents because of the ongoing genocide. Now, during those years, to cross from the south to the north of Gaza, of the Gaza Strip, we had to go through an Israeli checkpoint called by the Israelis the Netzarim checkpoint, after the name of an Israeli settlement there. I vividly remember the experience of going through the checkpoint. I remember how the Israeli forces used to stop every vehicle. Adults had to show their ID cards, and they were sometimes searched. They were sometimes treated very violently, and also children too. My father worked in Gaza, and on Thursdays he couldn't come back home due to the closure of the checkpoint. Therefore, he had to wait until Friday afternoon. During that time, the occupation army wasn't really present in every corner in Gaza. However, they could from one place to another, to every corner if they chose, unlike us. Settlers, I think, had more freedom than us. I don't really remember direct encounters with settlers during that time. In 2000, the second intifada erupted. It was September. I had just started the second grade. There are scenes and images from that time that live in my memory, and they will live in my memory forever. Scenes from Gaza, scenes from the West Bank, and the rest of Palestine too. We remember Muhammad al-Durra. I was born on the year of the signing of the Oslo Accords, but my generation is really the generation of the Intifada. It shaped us, it shaped our relationship with the land, made us the adults that we are today. The Intifada lasted for a few years, but during that time, something terrible happened to Jenin, an Israeli massacre. In 2002, the Jenin massacre happened. Israelis committed a massacre, killing so many Palestinians from Jenin in April. They destroyed everything. I remember being glued to the TV during that time. I was a child, I wasn't even 9 years old, but I followed every news. This experience affected me personally. 1 or 2 summers later, when I was in summer camp, we had this short story writing exercise, and I chose to write a story about 2 siblings from Jenin. I don't remember that much about that story. I remember that I wanted to choose Jenin. I wanted to express and reflect the experiences of those people who went through a massacre and survived it. Even though I had never been there. When you are a Gazan, you can't move anywhere else in Palestine. You just can't move in Gaza. My Palestinian identity, therefore, was shaped amid all of this. And I admit that this somehow intensified my love for Palestine. Maybe I wouldn't have Palestine that much. It wasn't occupied. But it's being an occupied land and made us treasure it more. In his autobiographical work, Munir al-Barghouthi, a Palestinian poet and writer, says, what is so special about it except that we have lost it? Well, I don't really agree with the so special part, because there are so many things special about Palestine. But yes, I agree with the part that us being born in an occupied country made us love it more. Our identity was shaped through this time, and our vocabulary too. We started learning new words about the occupation, about the tools of resistance, about the fight, etc.
I know that you're so talented and really driven, so I'm sure you've had huge dreams for yourself, and I know among those are getting a PhD in literature and being a scholar. What are some of the things that you've wished for yourself?
From a very young age, I knew that I loved acquiring knowledge. However, it was really hard for me to decide which major I wanted to study. I was interested in almost every field, maybe except math, until I realized that I could study literature. Once I started studying literature, I found that I was in the right place, that I was doing something for myself and for my future career, that I found my calling. Then that I wanted to stay in academia. I took the master's step and hopefully one day I'll have a PhD. But being from an occupied country means that the individual and personal dreams are always connected with the national dreams, with the liberation of our land. Always wanted to go to every city and village in Palestine. I dream of visiting Rafah, and it's my indigenous hometown where my grandparents, three of my grandparents, were born. I dream of visiting Akka, Al-Quds, Nablus, and Al-Nasira. I'm telling you, the Arabic names for these cities, I'm choosing the Arabic names as some kind of resistance, using the words that we use, Palestinians, not English words, and certainly not the words and the names that the Israelis chose for our lands. In Gaza, we know the coast life, but we don't know the mountain life. And I want to experience that. I want to experience both, the coast and the mountain.
I know to pursue your studies and move forwards, you left Gaza for a short while to study in Doha, but then you returned and have been working at the Islamic University of Gaza. What motivated your decision to return to Gaza?
I was in Doha from 2019 to 2021. I have a Master's of Comparative Literature from Doha Institute for Graduate Studies and a Bachelor's of Arts from the Islamic University of Gaza in English language. What motivated my decision to return to Gaza was mainly the longing for my family and also Gaza, particularly the beach. It is my favorite beach. I wanted to return and do something for myself and also something for my community before getting a PhD. I knew that to get a PhD in literature, I had to study abroad, and I didn't want to start that step, to take that journey before coming back to Gaza. I needed this time in Gaza.
I'd love to know a little bit more about your work. So tell us a bit about the work that you do and your literary interests.
While in Doha, I was planning for applying to a university in Gaza, and it was one of the first things that I had done once I returned. I wanted to teach literature, and by teaching literature, I wanted to teach my community through teaching its students. I knew that literature could help me do that, could help me bring a change to the thinking of the students, to develop their ideas, their critical thinking. And I wanted to bring a change to the syllabus too, in every course, particularly comparative literature. I am an English literature lecturer at the Islamic University of Gaza. I mainly teach in the southern branch in Khan Younis, and I loved that I was teaching in the south. Most of my students were from Khan Younis and Rafah. I taught comparative literature, American literature, Elizabethan literature, introduction to literary criticism, introduction to English literature, and modern English poetry. But this is not my only work. I also work as a translator and content writer with Farfetch UK as a freelancer. These were the two jobs that I was working before the ongoing genocide started. As for my literary interests, my favorite genre is fantasy. However, I read other genres too. I read literary fiction. I'm interested in books written in Arabic and English. I also read translated literature. In the last few years, I developed an interest in Asian literature. And I also became more interested in speculative fiction, although I don't really read that much science fiction and horror. But recent Palestinian literature publications in both English and Arabic all fall under this genre. I'm also interested in post-colonial literature and decolonial literature.
I know what I'm about to ask next is a really difficult question, and I know it might be quite difficult for you to talk about what's been going on, but I'm really interested in knowing in how his life changed in Gaza since October 7th. Can you tell us some of what you've experienced in these last 6 months?
So much has it changed since the 7th of October. Nothing stayed the same. To give you an idea about how my personal life had changed, I'm just going to go back in time one day, and I'll tell you about my day on Friday, the 6th of October. And my mother woke me up. She told me that we had to pick our olives. And I told her that we should postpone it because I was busy and we can harvest later, next Friday. And they agreed. My parents agreed. They told me that it's okay. We can wait another week. I was happy about that. After having breakfast, I finished a task for Farfetch. I had just one short task that I finished in less than half an hour. And then I started preparing for an interview that I had later that afternoon. The interview was with a potential PhD supervisor, and it was a good one. We had a good discussion. We discussed Palestinian literature and decolonial literature and speculative fiction. She kind of accepted me. She told me that she is going to give me a good recommendation. So I was happy about that, and I started daydreaming before going to my other tasks. Later in the evening, I started preparing for my lecturing job. So Saturday here is a weekday, it's not the weekend. So on Saturday, I had 2 classes. I had Elizabethan literature and modern English poetry. And I started preparing for the 2 classes. I was teaching Macbeth. And in the poetry course, where we were discussing John Donne, I think, yeah. So this was my day, and this is how I went to sleep, thinking about my future ahead, and also about maybe getting a scholarship and applying for one in the first place. I was thinking about Macbeth and Lady Macbeth and Murder of King Duncan. I was thinking about John Donne and metaphysical poetry. On Saturday morning, we knew that we had to leave our house. We had to evacuate the house. It's something that we don't do from day one of an aggression. We are usually displaced during only ground invasions. This is what happened during every aggression on Gaza. However, this time we knew that it's going to be different, that the occupation really declared war on us. So we went to my sister's house in Beni Suhaila, just around 2 kilometers away from home. So it's not that far away from home, but we thought that her neighborhood is a bit or relatively safer than our neighborhood. Until Tuesday, nothing really happened that affected us, but 3 members of the extended family were killed on the 7th of October. And we were very sad by that news. One of them is our very closest neighbor in our new house. On Tuesday, we had experienced a very harsh and brutal night. So I told my sister that we could maybe move to her, evacuate to her friend's house in central Khan Younis. We were still in the city of Khan Younis. And we stayed there for like 2 days, and we returned on Friday. On Friday, we were at my sister's house, but the occupation, I've started bombing houses very violently. Massive airstrikes happen. And we were hearing news of people being displaced and evacuating to some UN school. And we took the hard decision of moving to school. That was only the 7th day of the ongoing genocide. And so the bombing did not really stop. The airstrikes never stopped. We were hearing explosions all the time, close ones too. On a Friday, on the 20th of October, we were hearing massive airstrikes during the night, and we could not sleep. Before 3 a.m., IOF occupation forces dropped white phosphorus bombs on us. We were displaced in one room. It was very crowded. We had more than 50 people sleeping in just one classroom, and we woke everyone up. The kids who were still sleeping, we woke them up. We started instructing each other how to treat and how to behave during such times. So every one of us, it's fortunate that we knew how. It's good that we knew how to deal with such situations, but it's sad to know that adults and kids knew how to deal with white phosphorus. So we started to wet any piece of clothes and cover our ears, our noses, our eyes too. My eyes really hurt me a lot because I had undergone LASIK surgery a few months, like 10 months before that attack. On the 15th of November at night, the invading of Al-Shifa hospital happened for the first time, and I couldn't sleep that night. I did not know what to do with myself. So I wasn't in the classroom. I was in the corridors reading the news and following them, and it was really hard knowing that a hospital can be invaded by the military, and no one stopped Israel. No one could say anything to Israel. America was still, the US was still saying that they support Israel, even as they were invading a hospital. Also, on Wednesday, the 25th of October, that night was really difficult on us. The occupation forces was using a new kind of arms, new kinds of arms and explosives, and we knew that. Growing up in Gaza means that you are familiar with the bombs, the rockets that are fired at us from drones, from F-16 warplanes, from F-35 warplanes, etc. And we are familiar with the kind of explosions that we hear. But during that night, we heard an explosion every 5 seconds. One of my friends at school, she told me that she started counting from the beginning. The airstrike started at around 11 p.m. And she said that she started counting every explosion that she heard. And then she stopped at number 300. We were hearing a new kind of explosions, but not just explosions though. So when they fire or target us with a new bomb, it would just light some kind of light that looked like lightning, a flash of lightning, and after that we would hear a whistle, a strange sound, and then 1 or 2 seconds later we would hear the explosion, let's say. And this happened every 5 seconds. My sister was sleeping next to me, and she kept hugging me during the whole night. It did not stop. It started at 11 p.m. and it stopped around dawn. So that's a long time. And during that night, I really genuinely thought that that Israel was bombing every building, every house from the east of Khan Younis, and they would reach the school that we were in. And I was waiting for my death, and I kept saying Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, pronouncing and declaring al-shahada every few seconds, because I thought that my time was coming. The worst part, this is not the worst night that we experienced while we were in Khan Younis. On the 4th of December, we heard airstrikes. The occupation was carpet bombing the east of Khan Younis, every place in the east of Khan Younis, particularly Bani Suhaila. So they were targeting everyone, people and buildings, houses, etc. And they did not stop. And we knew that this meant that they would start a ground invasion of Bani Suhaila. So we started praying, reading Quran, thinking about surviving the night, and we actually thought that we would not survive that night. We did not only hear rockets and the explosions of rockets and bombs. We heard artillery shelling. We heard also live shooting of bullets. So I told my mother that if we survive this night, we are going to evacuate Khan Younis and go to Rafah. People were already moving to Rafah. When I prayed Fajr that dawn, I did my wudu in the room itself. I used just a very small amount of water, and as I started praying, that nothing stopped, and I was scared. I barely moved. It's really difficult to talk about that experience. But around 8 a.m. the next morning, on December 5, on Tuesday, we decided to go to Rafah, to evacuate Rafah, and that was my 4th displacement. It was really a hard decision, because before we were displaced, but at least we were displaced in our city. Now we were displaced in a new city. It's not really that new to us, because we are familiar with Rafah. My mother is from Rafah, but we felt how hard it is on us to move to a new city where people were already suffering. We felt that we are farther away from Khan Younis, and this was really difficult. Now, when we came to Rafah, we found a place in Al-Mawasi where people were one tent for the whole family, my married sisters and my married brothers, our small family, my parents and I, because we did not know how long we were staying in Rafah. And after that, we had another tent. Life in displacement, its own horror story. It's really harrowing. It's depressing. It's devastating. And we fight for everything. We stand in lines for everything, especially at the beginning. Now we have a few means. We know how to get water, how to get food. But at the beginning, there were no bazaars, nothing to buy, no close places to get water. It was really hard to find drinking water and non-drinking water. And for water, we would stand in lines, long lines. And when we find food and buy it, we also have to stand in lines. Remember, at that time, not much aid was allowed to enter Gaza through the Rafah crossing and any other crossings with Gaza. What's strange about living in a tent that it's really hot during the day and really cold during the night. What keeps us warm may be us sleeping next to each other, very close to each other. And being in Rafah doesn't mean that we don't hear airstrikes. We hear them all day, sometimes all day long, sometimes ones that are being bombed in Khan Younis. Some of my close relatives were injured. Some of them were killed by Israel. So that's its own pain and its own suffering. We suffer every kind of suffering here. Another thing that really changed is the idea of the passing of time. Time feels surreal. It feels strange that time is moving. It's passing. That the days are changing. And actually the days are changing into night and the nights and into days. Waiting is all we have, but at the same time, we feel like we don't have any time left. As people and as Muslims particularly, we know that death can claim us at any moment. And we believe in that, we believe in death. However, to think about death in every moment of your life, it's a constant worry. And not just a normal, natural death, it's brutal. You think about yourself being cut and torn into pieces. You think about being injured and having your legs and arms or any part of your body being amputated. And this leaves you in a constant state of trauma. We are traumatized here in Gaza. There's no other way to describe it. We're not just anxious, we're not just afraid, we're not just terrified, we are traumatized. And it's making us have nightmares, like the latest siege on Al-Shifa hospital traumatized me. Not just reading the news, seeing the images was hard on me. Knowing that I could be that person who went through that, knowing that it could be that woman who had to endure all of that, sexual assault and also rape, etc. And the stories that we hear about are really horrifying. And so I started having new kinds of nightmares of being followed everywhere I go. So yes, death is always close to us. But at the same time, we only can wait. So our relationship, our even understanding of time changed. That time is all we have, but at the same time, we know that at any moment we could be murdered, we could be killed by an airstrike. What also changed for me and everyone is that it's always a struggle to find anything, to get anything done, to make food. We have to go through a longer process of acquiring water and then buying the food and finding the food, looking for it. It's very expensive. Everything is very expensive. Food is expensive. We wait until the prices are lowered. Sometimes we don't have certain kinds of vegetables. We rarely have any kind of foods, even here in the south, where aids reach us, unlike the north of Gaza. And since we have no tap water and no electricity, so we do a lot of washing by hand washing, and we carry buckets of water. We carry tanks, sometimes small, sometimes big tanks of water. Even children do that, and this is what breaks my heart. I always, all the time, see children carrying buckets of water, heavy ones, and you can't help them because you are carrying your own buckets of water. Lots of my family and relatives, when they see me doing this, they find it strange. They think, what are you doing? This is not something for you to do. Maybe can get the men to do that. So I tell them that we all have to help each other out. To get anything done, we all have to do our part. So a few of us would be going in lines to find non-drinking water, what we call salty water, or washing, and kind of washing, and the others would be in lines for food or lines for drinking water, or what we call sweet water, to differentiate between it and the other kind of water. Now we hand wash our clothes. Also the bathroom is an issue. Going to the loo is an issue because we share it with men and women. There's so many families, more than 100 people share one bathroom. So to take a shower, it's trouble. I have to carry water first, me or sometimes my brothers-in-law and my sisters, anyone really help me, but I have to carry the water, or they have to carry the water for me. After standing in lines, and then I have to warm up the water, and after that, I have to wait for the load to be not occupied. And then while taking a shower, I feel like I am exposed in a street because this is actually where I am in the shower. It's just a tent and a street. So I start pouring water very quickly on myself just to get it done. If it's over with it, it's not a relaxing experience. Nothing is relaxing really nowadays, but this experience itself is very troubling. When we came here, we did not have gas, so we didn't really have any stoves. So we had to light a fire whenever we wanted to make anything. But now things started to change, alhamdulillah. Since people sometimes go to their houses in Khan Younis, and this is actually a risk to go to your house in Khan Younis while Khan Younis was going under ground invasion. However, so many people don't really have a choice, so this is what they do. They can't find the things that we need here in Rafah due to the large number of displaced people here. I think it's safe to say that all of us have their priorities changed. All of us just want to survive, just to be safe, just to also connect with their family and relatives to make sure that everybody that they know is still alive, is unharmed, and is eating well and drinking water, enough water. So just basic human rights. We're just talking about human rights, basic human rights that everyone should have. And they are struggling here. We risk our lives to get them. So yes, everything changed for us.
Thank you, Shaymaa, for being so honest and willing to talk about the things that you've been experiencing. I'm at a loss of words, really, to comment on anything. It's absolutely heartbreaking. And I know that you and your parents are hoping to evacuate Gaza to Egypt. What would that look like, and what can we do to help?
For now, my parents and I want to evacuate to safety. And this means going to Egypt, since the Gaza Strip shares its borders with Egypt. That's why it's our country of choice. Once we are there, we would either stay with relatives, we have a few relatives there in Egypt, or rent an apartment. We would most likely rent. Once the genocide is over, and a few weeks or maybe months have passed, my parents would want to return to Gaza. They don't want to leave it forever. As for me, the plan is not really clear at the moment. I think I want to apply for jobs in different countries while waiting for a PhD scholarship. And I think during this time I may need further help once I'm in Egypt. And not a financial help, most likely. I'll need the assistance of the book community to reach out to colleges, publishing houses, or anywhere I need to apply. Maybe if they don't really respond via emails, they can maybe send out or reach out to them through Instagram stories or through tweets on Twitter or X nowadays. I'm thinking about jobs because this is how I function normally. I can't function without working, without having a career to work on. And I want to take this moment to thank the book community. I knew that they would come through. I knew that they would help me, and this is why I reached out to the book community. I've never actually posted the link of my GoFundMe campaign to my personal private Instagram account or even Twitter. On Twitter, I just retweet and repost what people who post about me. We're still not calling it X, apparently. I believe in the power of the book community. I knew that they would help if I asked them, if I go to them, and I love that I made the right decision, because I know that readers, especially those who read consciously, especially those who read diverse books and learn about what's happening in the world. They are activists in the making. These people can advocate for justice and show solidarity with our cause easier than any kind of. These people know how to use their voices, and I am glad that I belong to such community, that I am on Bookstagram. The response I'm getting is really kind, and it's making me hopeful. Alhamdulillah.
Shaymaa, what are your hopes for the future of Gaza?
Liberated Gaza. Gazans are really smart. We have so many bright people. We have so much potential. We can rebuild Gaza. It will take a while, of course, especially with how destructive, how much it's destructed. All of the cities in Gaza right now. However, we know that we can change it for the best. We did that before. We can do that now. We can do it again. A liberated Gaza will be a prosperous Gaza. But now I think we're mostly thinking about the near future, about rebuilding our homes and our cities. And I hope for a free Palestine in our lifetime. I want to witness the freedom of Palestine during my lifetime. I want to go to the places that I wish to go to. And as for myself, I want to stay in academia. And I want to teach literature, particularly Palestinian literature. In my experience, I've mostly taught English literature in many courses. However, with comparative literature, I focused on post-colonial literature and diverse literature from Asia, from Africa, from Mexico too. So I want to teach post-colonial literature and decolonial literature. I miss my job and I miss teaching. And this is one of the things that the ongoing genocidal war is taking from me. This is what Israel is taking from me. Or not me just personally, but I know that it's taking a lot from everyone. So lecturing is where I find myself, and hopefully in the future I have the chance to do that again. And hopefully I'll be able to write a book or two. Right now, I'm thinking about writing about my experiences during these times, during the time of the genocide. And hopefully I'll survive this and write about it, because there's so much to talk about. Not just from personal experience. I think to document what's happened, I have to share my personal experience along with the experience of every other Gazan that I know about. Because what you hear about in the news, what you read about, it's not the full story. It's not even 10% from what's really actually happening, from the daily, minute to minute, hour to hour struggles that we go through. And I think everything that we're going through should be documented, should be talked about more. May we live in a free Palestine one day soon. Thank you so much, Samia. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for using your platforms, whether on Instagram or here, to amplify Palestinian voices and to show your support and solidarity. I'm very grateful and I'm very honored to be with you. So thank you so much.
Shaymaa, I really want to thank you for speaking to me on the podcast, for taking the time and finding the space also to make it happen. I really hope that people hear your story and are able to support you in whatever way they can, but also to rally behind the cause and do what we can right now to help create a liberated and